And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Our live thing didn't work there, our intro, so we'll just come right on and start talking. It's good to see everybody on a Thursday night. It's been one of those days. Listen, we're grateful to have everybody. We've got a good show for you ahead tonight. And today has been the National Day of Prayer, and we hope you enjoyed our prayer show earlier. I want to thank the ones that prayed with us and so forth, and those of you that joined us for that and so forth. President Trump tonight is speaking at the University of Alabama commencement, and there have been about 25,000 protesters out there protesting him, and we'll keep you up to date on that. We got some breaking news tonight, and we're grateful to have our dear buddy Jeemes Akers on the phone, and it's so good to see you tonight, man. How are you? Good to see you tonight, as always.
Doing fine, Chris. Always a pleasure being with you.
Always a pleasure here, too, buddy. It goes without saying. You're my dear friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again up in Cincinnati area and that Ohio. We're going to have some fun at a baseball game and do some other things and fellowship. But that'll be down the road, but definitely soon. Hey, big news today, and I thought about you instantly. Just the bombshell that happened. It was so weird. Michael Waltz actually had watched him this morning on Fox give an interview about the Ukraine-Russia situation, and it was just like an hour later, Breitbart and Gateway Pundit, other conservative outlets were reporting that he had been booted and fired basically from the National Security Advisory role, the head of the NSA, and Marco Rubio now is going to be placed in that role for the time being. He's going to have a dual role of both the Secretary of State. But our friend Brad Johnson told me a month ago or two, James, he felt like Waltz was in over his head, and it tends to be what I'm hearing tonight, that the Signal Gate thing was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. And even though to me it was a nothing burger, it was sort of a more systematic issue with him, that the NSA was in a little disarray and not really organized. And Trump early on, I don't see Trump having a lot of patience right now with these department heads, man. You either do your job, or as Trump said in the print, you're fired, man. You're fired.
Well, but there's that, but there's also he didn't let him go right away out of respect, I think, for Waltz, and allowed a little bit of time to pass, from the event, and the new gig is not a bad one, and a key position for the United States, and that's ambassador to the United Nations, and so maybe Brad was right. Maybe the control of the entire security apparatus was a bit above his head, but I think he'll do a real good job. I think Trump has confidence in him. If this wasn't a case where he was canned and told to get out of town.
I'll agree.
It was a mild demotion and probably recognition. I think the greater loss was his deputy, who had played a key role in the first Bush administration. With he has sort of a reputation as a Korean expert, and arranged Trump's trips to visit the North Korean leader and things like that. So I thought of the two moves. I thought that one was more interesting in terms of national security perspective. I think Waltz will do a good job at the UN and redeem himself. That's my personal opinion.
Those are well taken points, and as you said, it wasn't like he was let go and Trump went out and blasted him, because I like Waltz actually. James, honestly, there's none of Trump's cabinet that has done a bad job. I think they all have done an excellent job. The media is trying their best to convince us that the American people are unhappy. And I don't believe that the American people are that unhappy, except the impatient fools out there that don't understand government and don't understand that, this is a long process and a long digging out of what we came out of. I do find it interesting about Wong, and that's the guy you're talking about, Alex Wong. Have they placed him in another position, or is he completely gone now? Have you heard what his new role is?
I have not heard what lies next for Wong, and that'll be interesting to see what develops there. But as of this point, I don't know. Maybe one of your listeners has heard something on it, but I haven't.
Yeah. What was your take on this when you first heard this today? What was your gut? And again, you know how it is in Washington, even in conservative circles, what they tell you out in the public is, you have to get insiders to sort of tell you what's going on. I heard one report that Trump was very upset, at least when it happened. Trump's a very forgiving kind of guy, and but this Signalgate did not help him in this situation that gave this Atlantic goofball the access, records to war plans supposedly, and it was an accident, and Waltz, apologized profusely for it, but it did give the Democrats some hammering. That was their first really big hammer to hammer Trump on, and Trump wasn't too happy about it. But I don't think that was ultimately this. Do you have any reason why he would shake up the situation this early on? Because we just passed the 100-day mark yesterday of his presidency, and I think you're onto something. He waited for a little while, to do it, but still, it is weird to do this so early, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's sort of Trump's pattern. More disconcerting, slightly to me, is that it just shows our national security and our foreign policy apparatus in sort of disarray, and that's been a criticism of mine. I assume Brad would go along with me. For the last several administrations, it's been administration to administration. There's been no continuity in terms of our foreign policy. And, I don't know if you put much stock. There's an article by John Bolton that appeared in Vox today that was really critical of Trump on that point. Of course, he was critical of Trump for several things, but I think that one has a little bit of sticking power to it. Rubio seems to be sort of a calm hand that has sort of righted the ship in that way, and I think of all the cabinet members, I think Rubio comes off looking the best.
Yeah.
At the day mark. I think he's done a really good job of defending the president's positions abroad. It's my hope that there will be some sort of mechanism put in place that will ensure continuity of U.S. foreign policy, with the guiding star being, the United States interests come first. And we haven't seen that in a long, long time. And we certainly haven't seen it effectively administered in a long, long time. And it's my hope that Rubio is going to do that. We desperately need in this world to have sort of a position that endures from administration to administration on some of these really key foreign policy issues like China and Iran.
I think you brought up an excellent point, and Brad has expressed that the last time we talked. This is one of the things that we actually talked about for a great length of time during the program, because he basically echoed what you just said, that he felt like that the Intelligence agencies have been gutted through the years of good people, and that's one of the reasons he was not a big fan of Waltz. He did not feel like Waltz could be. He said, you need to have a cutting edge kind of guy over these agencies, and you got to have some savvy, you got to have some experience, in it, and and it goes to Trump's decision to put him in there to begin with. But I will tell you this: the dangers that we face tonight, I think, are greater, than ever, and I think that, I like Rubio. I remember when he picked Rubio, there was certain people on the right even that was not happy. And, of course, there's just some people, James, are not going to be happy with anything Trump does. It doesn't matter what he does, what tie he wears, what jacket he wears, how he parts his hair, whatever. And that's even on the right. There's conservatives that don't like Trump. But I think that overall, the switching of Rubio, do you think Rubio will be able to handle both roles as Secretary of State and NSA effectively?
Well, the guy is on the Secretary of State position has evolved into, a lot of travel, and so what you're talking about is sort of finding a balance between all that travel that the Secretary of State is expected to do these days with a sort of stay-at-home position, which is presiding over the NSA. And it'll be it's an interesting balancing act. I'm like you. I have a lot of confidence that Rubio can pull it off, but I don't see it as a permanent thing. I think it's just going to be
temporary,
a transition until Trump can find somebody he's comfortable with to head the NSA.
All right.
And there aren't that many people out there that can step into that position and do a good job, nevertheless speak effectively to U.S. interests in the intel and other communities.
All right. Now, having said that, this happens at a time that we signed the mineral rights deal finally with Ukraine today, and it seems that while I don't trust Zelensky past this camera, I don't trust Putin much more. Do you see this changeover pulling the two sides? Mike Waltz, I thought, actually gave a very good explanation to Fox and Friends this morning about the status of the Ukraine-Russia, and he said it right. He said, look, for 4 years, nobody talked to anybody. And these Democratic hacks out there are using Trump's words that he would fix this day one. And these, they know good and well that Trump was not going to fix it in day one. There's no way he could have. Nobody could have fixed it, but nobody tried to fix it for 4 years. And do you think that this Stephen Wyckoff, who has basically been the traveling liaison for the president with that situation in the Middle East and Russia, will he be the new head? Because that name was circulating around circles today that was probably who Trump ultimately may put in that role. And what do you think of him? And are there anybody that you have? Is there anybody on your short list that you would put on that list to head up the national security agency? Because I'll be honest with you, of all the three-letter agencies, to me that one's pretty much up there at the top. Other than you CIA guys, present company excluded.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on your latter statement. The NSA, having an effective and efficient NSA in this day and age is absolutely crucial to U.S. national security interests, period. Finding the right guy to head that organization may be really difficult. That's a rare breed of cat that can speak fluently within the intelligence communities, shape up all the issues, and be an effective bureaucrat Democrat at the same time. There just aren't that many good choices that are out there. He may have to go to an unknown name off the bench someplace and give them a chance to prove themselves, in one of these other positions and move them up. I don't know. I actually don't know that much about Wycliffe, and other than he seems to be doing a decent job in all of these very tender and sensitive negotiations.
Do you think? I know I'm gonna. This may be a stretch. I saw a comment in the chat just now that they were hearing rumors that General Michael Flynn would possibly be a candidate. Do you see in any scenario Trump bringing Flynn back? I personally don't, but weirder things have gone on in D.C. James, what would you? Flynn left a sort of a scorched earth thing when he left. What's your thoughts on Flynn?
He would be a lightning rod of controversy from day one.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure that's what you need to head that key agency right now. Is somebody that the left is going to try to cut the ground out from under him from the very first minute he walks into his office.
Well, it's an interesting development tonight, and that's why I brought you on. I want to get your opinion on it, and as I think you've pretty much laid the case out, we need an experienced person at the head, and I just, it's not even a disagreement, but I tell you, if we were living under any other time of history, I would say you could take a chance on a novice or somebody brand new outside. And that makes what makes Washington D.C. so bad, because the people that you really can depend on or should depend on, they're the most swampy. In other words, they're the most ingrained in the deep state, ingrained in the elite of Washington, and they may give you good advice, but you couldn't trust them. And going back to John Bolton, I got more respect for a dead dog on the side of the street than I do John Bolton. I felt like he was a traitor. When Trump gave him that position, all he did was backstab Trump in the first term, and I don't pay any attention. I will agree with you that, again, it's a fair discussion to say that our security agencies need to be handled properly, but it is a complicated web. If you get down to it, it's more complicated than people think to get somebody in that position that is going to lead the agency right, but also be loyal to the president and not backstab him and have an agency that's gone haywire and do their own thing when the president wants them to do something else. But interesting stuff. Never a dull moment in D.C., that's for sure, buddy. I do want to ask you this, and you can chime in on anything else you need to. This illegal alien situation is getting worse by the hour. There has been a release tonight of the video, and we will have it hopefully by tomorrow night. We're trying to get our hands on it, but actually the human trafficking claim against this Gilmer, this Gamar down in Ecuador, El Salvador, I should say, that the left is like, he's become their poster child, the media's poster child. They're going to extreme lengths to protect him, visit him, coddle him, scream up and down that his, First Amendment rights and his rights to be free and due process have been taken from him. Come to find out, there was a picture tonight, a video of him in a car with a known human trafficker in Tennessee, in my state, right here. And that's the video that the media has never released to the public. It got released tonight by a independent news source. And Jeemes, what is this fascination, and what is this absolute insane obsession with the left tonight that they are protecting rapists, murderers, gangbangers, assaulters, thieves, DUI people that have killed? This situation in Texas tonight grieves me. This trucker that was a foreign national was probably drunk on something. He was either high on dope or high on alcohol, and they swear up and down that his test came back negative, but he drives his truck into a crowd, kills 5 people, including a baby and a child. He has a $1.2 million bond. And then this judge comes back because they get a test claiming, or toxicology test claiming he didn't have any of that in his system. And the police report clearly says he was bloodshot-eyed, he was weaving, couldn't say anything right, he slurred his words. She lowers his bond from $1.2 million to $7,000, which is basically $700 is all he's got to pay now to get out. And he'll get out. We may never see this guy again. And then you got 5 grieving families tonight that he basically changed their life by driving a truck into him. But the left and the media continue to embrace these people, and they don't care about the safety of the American public.
No, and they have a long track record of doing that. To me, it's fascinating, and I mean, you can go back several years with all of this, but the Democrats always seem to pick the wrong person to admire. They always pick the thugs and the dregs, you know, instead of, you know, picking out a person that's a good citizen, a good example for young people. They're always picking the wrong person to hang their hat on all of these constitutional cases, and it amazes me why they don't change that. It is not popular for the party, certainly, and there were rumors. I don't know if you heard them today, but the Democratic, the top Democrat in the House sent a sort of a letter to his fellow Democrats. Quit going to El Salvador. You know, these issues are losing issues for us as a party, and we need to change it. But you have people that are more interested, my opinion only, in camera time, regardless of the long-lasting implications of their stand. They're interested in short-term camera time, short-term political gain, or what they view as political gain. And all of this is sort of just killing the country, in my view. These controversies that have come up over these immigrants, especially these proven gang members, none of that stuff should even rise to the level of a controversy, you know, and much less the Democrats thinking somehow that John Q. Public approves of that stuff. I mean, you know, to me, it's a losing issue. Why they keep loading on that train that just heads towards the edge of the cliff, I do not know.
Well, I don't know either, but James, the problem with that is, look, we're not going to forget. I hate to tell these Dems, we're not going to forget this, that they have put the welfare of gangbangers and killers above the safety of the American public. There's been another incident this evening. A North Carolina woman, these 2 illegals broke into their house, her and her husband. They tied her up, demanded money. And when the husband couldn't pay the money, they kidnapped her and the baby, took her out. Now, I don't know what they did to her, if anything. Fortunately, the police got there in time and at least tracked these people down. The wife is safe, the baby's safe. But they were going to try to hold her for $1 million ransom. They're in jail, they're illegal. They shouldn't have been in North Carolina to begin with. You've got an illegal here in Tennessee, impregnated a 9-year-old last week. Shouldn't have been here to begin with. You've got Ron DeSantis today saying that Florida, 1,100 illegal aliens have been captured in his state in the last week. So, James, we're talking still tens of thousands of illegals, and then you still have this Democrat Party defending these people. We're not going to forget that. And you were right about Hakeem Jeffries. He did send that letter. That was not rumor. He did that. I think it's a little late, though, for him to be sending it, because he was out there pushing the same narrative last week when it was all vogue in the media to trash Trump over this. And I'll say it like this: the Republicans may not be perfect, but I will tell you this: the Democrat side is bat blank crazy. They are insane to push this. And you ask why they do it? I think it's just insanity. I don't think that they even have they wouldn't even be able to tell you why they'll do it. They'll hide behind, the Constitution. And I remind my audience tonight, on my soapbox, as you like to call it, I'll just go ahead and prepare you. But the entire U.S. Constitution, my friend, was written for Americans. It's not the world Constitution. It ain't El Salvador's Constitution. It's the U.S. Constitution. And non-citizens and criminals do not possess rights under this document. And I would go further to say this, James. They didn't follow the process coming in, the due process to become a citizen. They don't get a due process being kicked out. And I'll just leave it at that. What say you?
I couldn't agree more. I'll just cut to the chase. I couldn't agree more. The Constitution and the Founding Fathers assumed that there would be a nation within the federal system comprised of people of common sense. The problem is, in my view, is that the people now with common sense, are viewed as the outliers, and when it comes to constitutional rights and constitutional theory, and it's completely reversed. And that's what we have talked about before. What is going to be interesting to see is if this Trump period leads to a protracted time in this country of common sense coming back to politics. Getting rid of the graft and corruption, protecting our borders, and all of those basic things that are, in my view, just sort of common sense positions. Whether it's going to endure beyond the 4 years of Trump depends on a number of factors. And one, in my mind, is if Trump is dedicated to making sure his legacy endures beyond his time in office, or whether he's just going to do everything to put himself up front. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good question, James. That's a good point, and I think that's a fair assessment of things. And this is where Congress has got to step in. And I heard a Representative Luna today down in Florida say as much, that none of this is going to matter if a lot of these things are not codified into law and codified by the legislature of our nation. Because the next president, if it's not a Republican, God help us if it ain't, but all they'll have to do is, with one stroke of the pen, reverse every single thing Trump's done. And the victory will be short-lived. And people got to realize we've got but 3.5 years now. We're already 4 months in. And this 4 years is going to go by like a blip. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to fly by. And they've got to get this stuff in law that it's not going to be as easy to take off the books. Because if they don't, look, I think that the ramifications of a Democrat getting in power again are that is, I don't stay up at night over too many things. I'm a pretty level-headed dude. But I know this, if the Lord tarries any length of time and we're here, if the Democrats ever take power, they're going to take retribution on conservatives like we've never seen in this country. I believe they will.
Oh, yes, I think they will too. And it was interesting in that vein. I didn't watch all of it, just the beginning couple minutes, but Fox's Jesse Waters talked to Elon Musk, and that very issue came up. with all of these things, what have you done, and what has your people done, and all of this department, have they given thought to making sure that this endures beyond the next administration, because the next administration is going to undo everything that they've done?
Absolutely, they will. Absolutely, they will. And I don't see any effort by Congress to stop that, James. I don't see anything that Congress is doing right now. I mean, Thune today come out basically, and he said that that he will, he's shooting for July the 4th to have this bill passed with the financial stuff, that our taxes are basically lowered, and the tariffs will be figured in and so forth. But I do want to ask you: do you think the media is overreacting, and is it the tariff frenzy and the tariff scare is media driven? Look, I've listened to several financial experts out there, and it's a mixed bag at best. But I'm willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt with this right now, and let these tariffs play out. Look, I don't think we're going to be in for Armageddon like the media is telling us. And are we going to have a little blip? Maybe a little bit, of course. But we're Americans, man. We're Americans. We're not a bunch of wussies. We're Americans, and we're supposed to be the home of the free, land of the brave, home of the free. And I don't understand this cowardice on our populace tonight. Look, what's right is right, and what he's doing with these tariffs, in my opinion, is right. He's basically fixing a problem that should have been fixed long ago, but he is the only candidate and the only leader that we've had that's willing to take the hit and say, something, I got nothing to lose, and I might as well just go ahead and fix it, and the polls can take their polls and shove it up their CNN. That's how I look at it, and I think he's doing the right thing myself.
I agree. I think we need to just let it play out for a few more months. There's a report today that the Chinese are starting to come to the table and talk.
Yes.
They're and you have now the raw materials agreement with the Ukraine. There are certain things to this sort of America first that we just have not in years thrown our weight around internationally when it comes to things like trade or using the military or whatever. And for years, let's take the case of China. The Chinese have enjoyed a favorable position. They have taken advantage of us and popped the bag in our face, and nothing has been done. And so Trump at least is trying, in my mind, to remedy that imbalance. Will he be successful? It depends on how much support he gets, really. He's willing to take the hit, but he also what's interesting about Trump is that he so prizes his own reputation as a negotiator that in some of these cases around the world, if it's a win for Trump as negotiator, there may be a little bit of question of whether it's a win for the United States. Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I think all of that has to be sorted out. But I favor taking a strong position in China just because they've taken advantage of us, and they have used the interim to build the largest navy in the world. There's no question that they're just waiting for an opportunity to go into Taiwan. In fact, Xi has said that's going to be done, before he leaves office. And so, there are a number of places around the world where the United States has to act like the strongest power on earth.
Right.
And centuries past, the British were really good at that, but we have not been so good at it. We would rather be liked than respected in some cases. And so, I think school's still out on it. I think we need to give Trump a bit more time for it all to work out. We're already starting to see a couple cases that, as I mentioned, where things are starting to work, and so 3 or 4 months from now, it may be an entirely different picture.
Yeah, I'm with you. 5 minutes here, and I got a few quick fire questions for you. What do you think of the job Stephen Miller's doing as his chief of staff? I tell you what, I don't know if you saw it this morning when he was with Carolyn Levitt. We're going to play a video or two of him here tonight after we let you go. But I tell you what, he basically told the media this morning, he torched him, and he said transgender surgery is nothing but child torture and rape of a child. He told him that these hypocritical, two-faced journalists that are pushing for these illegals to get due process, he said if these people lived in your neighborhood, he said you would move out. If you were given a house for free to live in an MS-13 neighborhood, none of you would live there. None of you. But you expect the American citizenry to have MS-13 gangbangers living in their neighborhood, kidnapping their daughters, killing their wives, killing their husbands, killing their family. But you wouldn't even live in a free home if it was given to you with this MS-13. Of all the people in Trump's cabinet, I think Miller, if he ran for president, I'd vote for him because I like him. I think him and Rubio are great, giving it back to the press. I think Pete Hegseth's done a great job. And Carolyn Levitt, I don't think we've had a better press secretary than we've got with her. She's tough as nails. But Stephen Miller, brother, I'm going to tell you something. We Southerners, we like that kind of fire. And he was bringing it this morning. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I didn't. But he, that's sort of his MO. He just sort of tells it like it is, whether the press likes it or not. Now, there's another lady, I see her at the cabinet meetings. Is she Trump's chief of staff, Susan Wilkes?
Yes, Susan Wilkes. Yes, she is his chief of staff within the White House. Yeah, and Miller's his deputy chief. He's sort of his spokesman. Wilkes, you're not going to see in front of a camera, but Miller goes out there and he does the he does the heavy lifting, the media beat down, as we call it. And I think it's awesome that he does what he does myself.
I do too, but I'm telling you, the power behind the throne these days, I think, is Susan Wilkes.
I do too. I hear that. Yes.
And I think she's keeping a low profile, but I think behind the scenes when it comes to these major cabinet decisions and who's going to replace whom and all of those sorts of things, I think she plays an absolutely key role. And quite honestly, I'd like to hear more from her and her ideas, especially on this issue that we just addressed.
I would too. I think it would be good to hear from her. A couple of other quick-fire questions. Do you believe... and that question just left me. I had a question for you about this cabinet. I know what it was. Israel. These fires yesterday that almost threatened Jerusalem. Do you believe, because reports are coming out that they've arrested 3 arsonists, would you have considered that from your perch a terrorist attack on Israel yesterday with all these fires being set around Jerusalem? Because there's video coming out, James. It's a massive fire that has threatened the entire city of Jerusalem itself.
Yeah, I saw where Netanyahu made that announcement, You know, I have held for a long time, and I used to teach this in my college classes. There is sort of a undeclared shadow war going on that is waged by the Western democracies on one side and the sort of these regimes that have lined up and linked arms on the other. You know, and we do not get to see the half of it, but there are factories that explode. There are all sorts of events that happen, and I think cases of group arson may be just a part of that. And so there have been a couple really good books written on that, but this whole concept of shadow war, that there are things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, that the American media will never talk about.
I'll agree.
Is going on constantly, and I would not be surprised if there isn't a group of well-funded and financed arsonists that are strategically setting fires to embarrass Israel.
I think so too. But is it more than just embarrassing them, James? Do you believe that? I think that because they had to cancel their Independence Day celebration yesterday. You know, look, we're coming up on a prophetic day on the 14th next week. 77 years as a nation reformed again. The population is 10 million, almost 10.1 million now, up from it's 806,000 was the population when they was formed as a nation in 1948, and we're looking at something that I just think that is going to continue to happen in more intensity. That there's going to be more attacks like this, and look, I read an article here a few months ago that one of the tactics of Islam, one of the tactics of these Islamic terrorists is arson. They set fires, and in fact, I remember. I tell you where I read it. It's when the California fires was going on. Okay, and I want to say it was Pat Boone or one of the celebrities. He actually brought the question up. He said, "What if somebody was attacking America with terror with these fires?" Because if you think about it, how easy is it to go into a forest that nobody sees you, set a fire in very dry conditions, and that was the same conditions that was in Israel this week. They've had very dry weather, very little rain, a little bit more higher than normal temperatures, almost identical to the conditions in California that took place in January. And this article basically asked the question, this had been domestic terrorism? And in Israel's case, it's domestic terrorism too, because it's likely their neighbor that's doing it. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I have no doubts that a lot of that's going on. It sort of fits into my shadow war theory of things, and also as a person that was in the intelligence community for several years, whenever you do this sort of stuff, there has to be a layer of plausible deniability.
Correct.
So if there are dry weather conditions around Jerusalem and fires spread rapidly, it's very hard. There's an attribution problem. It's very hard to attribute acts of arson, and which are terrorist acts. Proving that it is extremely difficult. It always has been, and that's one of the problems with terrorism per se, is that because all of these groups operate under a sort of a mantle of plausible deniability, it is very hard to nail down and attribute criminal acts that are actually terrorist acts, and be able to make it. We want to make everything sort of legal so that we can take them to court or whatever.
Yeah,
and that all of that's very, very difficult to prove. And in the intel and in the world that I used to operate, we call that an attribution problem. There is always, with all of these happenings in the what I call the secret war, there is always, these actors are very careful to cover themselves, and there's a major attribution problem.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. Yeah.
And I think that's what's going on here. Even let's say, and we don't know, right? But let's say that this was sort of an orchestrated gang that set fire to the dry area around Jerusalem. We're never going to really be able to get to the bottom of that. There will be suspicions. There may be people within the Israeli intelligence community that suspect that, but suspecting it to the point that you believe it, and being able to bring individuals to a court of law is a different matter altogether. It's a huge problem.
Totally agree. Do you other question, do you believe that the illegals have any rights under our Constitution?
No, I think they're they came here, each and every one of them. There is a way to come here correctly, which entitles them to all the constitutional protections, and they chose instead to come here illegally. There may be very valid economic and family reasons for doing that, but they still do not, in my view, are they entitled to all the constitutional liberties that an American citizen enjoys.
Well, it seems that the media don't get that, and that was one of the things that Stephen Miller did a beatdown about this morning about these separated families. And Scott Jennings last night basically told Anna Navarro to her face, and she has got to be the most rabid. Look, I saw a meme, and this is going to sound a little ugly. It says you can't be ugly and stupid at the same time. You need to pick a side, which one you want to be, ugly or stupid. In Anna Navarro's case, I think that she's picked both. But he told her last night, he said, look, you all are complaining that Trump is separating families. He said, no, we're not separating families. He said the illegals that are being sent back are basically being given the choice. If they've had children over here in America, they can take their kids back with them. He said, we're not separating families. He said, we're not going to deport a U.S. citizen. And if you want to argue that the kids are citizens, okay, the kids are, but you're not. So if you want to go back and leave your kid here, that's up to you. But they don't want to do that. And they take these kids back, and that's the cry of the left, that we're basically, deporting children and women and single moms and all this stuff, which is just a bunch of crap. And then claiming that Trump was wrong when he told Terry Moran of the All But Crap Network that the guy with the MS-13 knuckles, Jeemes, those were tattoos. They were not Photoshopped. And again, tonight, it's being revealed in my state. It's where this guy first got caught in a car with a human trafficker. I don't know what part of this bunch don't get, but they've got no right to scream due process for anything. Period. This judge today, let me say this and I'll let you wrap us up. There was a judge today that told ICE that they've got to have a warrant before they take somebody, a Trey DeAgra gang, into custody. James, they're not entitled to a warrant. I'm sorry. Under our Constitution, if you're a citizen, you have to get a warrant, but these people are not citizens. And a judge, a freaking federal judge that should know the law, says that we've got to do that.
Yeah, I've expressed to you my view that some of these judges that render sort of outrageous, with no common sense basis to them, decisions are actually hurting the institution of law in this country, and law sets us apart from the totalitarian governments and several of the other governments in the world. And what we are doing is by these crazy, uninformed decisions, which are based on pure political preference, what we are doing is we are undermining the efficiency of law in our society, and the judges are as responsible for that.
Come on, James. Come on.
As anything that's happening in this country, and of course, none of them in law school or anymore in their regular education have any concept of what these things have done to other countries, and furthermore, none of them have any sense of the scriptural admonitions when the judges became an embarrassment to the nation of Israel, and God had to correct the country,
right?
And the judges became so corrupt that it just nauseated God. And I think we're approaching that situation now. All of these decisions that just fly in the face of common sense is just decision by decision that's made for political reasons rather than a solid basis in law, are steadily chipping away at the legal foundations of this country. And I hate to see it. I think if we all sort of read the end of a good book, all of this stuff sort of has to happen. But you don't have to like it. And
that's true. That's a good way to put it. That's an excellent way to put it. We don't have to like it, but we know it's coming. Hey, one quick question. One quick thing before I let you go. Today was the National Day of Prayer. President Trump made remarks. It's probably the first time that we've had a president in 4 years even acknowledge the National Day of Prayer. Joe Biden never did. But he said something that was very profound. And I'm tempted to do an anniversary T-shirt with this statement on it, that God only knows, and God knows exactly where we're going as a country. And James, I think that there is no better statement that a president can make about our land tonight, that God knows where we're going. And I think you just alluded to it, that if America don't turn around, God does know where we're going. And, I'm grateful you brought up the situation with Israel, because that's one little fact that people do not understand, that part of her judgment, part of the reason that God judged her so harshly and put her in captivity, was the corruption of the justice system and the bribery and the priesthood and the judicial breakdown, that there was no equitable justice in Israel, and God got very, very upset with it. And I'm with you. We are bordering very close on a point of no return here if we don't get something done. I know there's a question out there, what can Trump do about it? Trump can do very little about it. He can't do nothing about it. This has got to be fixed through Congress, because Congress has the oversight of a lot of these federal judges, and they're not doing nothing about it. But I think that statement today by Trump, that God knows exactly where we're going, I think was probably the most profound I've heard a president speak in many years.
Yeah, there was a really interesting gathering of prominent religious leaders and this, that, and the other with Trump a couple weeks ago. There's of course, there are. The problem is there are people that if Trump went before a TV camera and held up some sort of container and said, "We have the cure to cancer here," the media would complain about what the container consisted of.
That's exactly right. No, they would. No, you're right.
Because it's Trump. And so, in my mind, something changed in Trump when that assassin's bullet went right by his ear, and you know, I'm not saying the guy is still a rough around the edges, you know, dog eat dog survivor of the New York real estate market. You know, I don't think you're going to be able to take that out of him. But he is much more, he is much more inclined to listen to advice from the Christian right, I think, than he was the first go round.
Well, and that's why this prayer advisory board around him, I'm praying that they'll have discernment too, because he does listen strong to them. And he's, you know, I know that he's his own man, but that's why we need to pray like we've never prayed, that people around him are giving him good advice and not bad advice. And I'll just leave it at that. That's another discussion. But it's always a pleasure to have you. My goodness, this hour has went by fast. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, man. Wrap us up. Final thoughts. As always, a pleasure to have the one and only Jeemes Akers with us tonight. Wrap us up as you give us your final thoughts tonight.
Well, my final thoughts are always pretty much the same. For this country, the hope for this country is for there's a scriptural admonition. If my people, you know, if my people pray and humble themselves, you know, then I will intervene on behalf of their nation. And it is my prayer that individuals see how important it is, and not expect the president to see how important it is, but that individuals start to live lives of integrity and seek the Lord Jesus Christ with all their hearts. That is the ultimate hope for the future of this country, and to spread and to tell our children that same thing. You know, that's where the hope for the future lies. It doesn't lie in ideologies, political persuasions, economic prowess. Our future lies in us being a good people.
That's so true.
And the world needs to see the United States as good. And when that happens, change is going to happen. And praise God, the Lord above may delay, you know, bringing down the hammer, but short of that, I don't think. I think we're looking at a tough time over the next few years. Me
too, buddy. I'm with you there, buddy. God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I will see you very soon, and I'll be in touch with you. And you know, your baseball team is doing better. Mine's doing a little better. I didn't know if mine was going to even win a game for the rest of the year. So they're coming. Cincinnati's coming to Atlanta next week. And then we're going to be up your way in the summer. So, but we're baseball fans, and I'm looking forward to sitting down and chatting with you in person and eating a hot dog with you again soon, buddy. I appreciate you very much. You're always welcome on the show. We'll have you back on next week, I'm sure, again. God bless you, Jeemes. Appreciate you, buddy.
God bless you, Chris. Always a pleasure. You know, whenever you need somebody to fill a space, you just let me know. Okay? Well,
we need you more than just to fill a space. You're part of the show, and I appreciate you, man. God bless you now. You have a great night.
God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody, put some fire in the house, and such a precious gentleman, good friend, good friend of ours, network, and we've become good friends personally over the last year. He's come down, and we've had lunch here, and I saw a baseball game with him last September, and he's a good man. He's a good man, that's all I can say. And he's up there in age, and I glean off his wisdom. And he was an analyst for the CIA for many years, and he wasn't like Brad. Brad was a field agent, but Jeemes was one that would look at what the CIA would bring them and analyze the charts and basically give them advice on how to handle certain things. And you just feel it. You just feel it when he's talking. We're grateful that you're here tonight. We're going to keep you for a few more minutes, and we'll take some questions from you. We've got a few videos we're going to play here and in a minute. Amy Miller says these judges' interpretation of the Constitution comes with fine print terms and conditions which may vary based on financial contributions. Amy, that is so true, friend. Good to see you tonight. It is good to see you. I read that. I was laughing before James got off the phone, and I was that's pretty much it. That is very true. I got to show you this. I talked about it with James a little bit. I think we've got it on the Newswire thing. By the way, here's the prayer event today. That's the quote. God knows exactly where we're going. That's President Trump today. Looks like Pete Hegseth there in the front. And looks like, is that Carolyn Levitt? Yeah, that's Levitt in the front. Bessett. Rubio, look at there. Mike Johnson is there. And then behind him looks like there's probably some other faith leaders there. Religious Liberty Commission set this. Here's President Trump today talking about the National Day of Prayer. Roll the tape.
So as we bow our heads in this beautiful day, once again we have to trust our God, because our God knows exactly where we're going, what we're doing, knows every inch of our life. And may He continue to hear our prayers, to guide our steps and build up our beloved nation to even greater heights. We're in the process of doing some great things. I get criticized no matter what, but I just go forward because everyone knows we're right. All we're doing is what they've done to us for 40 years, but we're doing it bigger and better. That's the only thing we're doing.
That is so true, and that was a tremendous statement today. I love what he said, that God knows exactly where we're going. I want to just say this. I want to come back over to my screen and say something about President Trump and that. You know, he said he gets criticized, and I understand the criticism on the left. I don't understand. Let me change that. I do understand the criticism on the right because we are an impatient people. You know, the man's been in office 100 days, and there has been such a impatience on the part of the American public. They think that he could come in here, wave a magic wand, and fix every problem we've got, fix every war that's going on, bring prices down in 2 weeks, bring gas prices in 3 weeks. And folks, to be frank with you, he's done that in about 90 days, in 100 days. Now, not fully all the way down. And I will tell you this, I'm not going to raise expectations too high, but I will tell you this. I've looked into this bill that he's got, that he's working on with Congress, and this tax cut, this extension of these tax cuts. And that coupled with the tariffs, I read a story yesterday, and I pray it's true, but what Trump is pushing for right now, that if you make $200,000 or less, you're not going to pay income tax in this country for many years. And they're going to set this in motion for a 10-year thing and put it in law. And the only way that that could be changed is the Democrats take power and they take over the House and the Senate. God help us if they do. That's why voting matters, and that's why elections matter. But that's what his goal is. That's why these tariffs are being attacked, and that's why these tariffs are being lied about by the left and the media. Because government wants you to pay taxes, and government wants to fleece you. And I like what Amy Miller said, the fine print of the Constitution is always about financial contributions. Well, I'm going to tell you what, the fine print of the American citizens' existence has always been taxation. I think we fought a little war back, about 250 years ago in Boston Harbor, called the Tea Party. I think we held a tea party in protest of taxes being laid on us by King George. Just a Southern boy. I think that's how we founded this country. But taxation has been almost a weapon to control the American public, and I believe Trump has got the will to do it. There was a move today in Congress by the right, not the left, led by Rand Paul, who is a chameleon himself, and he thought he had enough votes to stop Trump from laying global tariffs on other nations, and the Senate was going to try to stop him. Well, guess what? Mitch McConnell didn't even show up, and there was another Senator, Whitestone, didn't show up, and the vote went 49-49. J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote, and you know where he voted, and that measure failed. That measure failed. That didn't come from the left. That came from the right. And that's the stuff that part is, I think, what our frustration is out here. We expect the left to do what they do. But Trump's tariff policies, folks, give it time. Give it time. Everything, give it time. This cabinet, give it time. I've told you on this show, and I'll tell you again tonight. Today is May the 1st. He will have been in office 6 months, July the 4th, roughly. He took office January the 20th, so roughly a little under 6 months by July. I'm looking at July 4th, and we're going to see where we're at July 4th on a lot of things. And look, we speak from the heart here, and if there are certain things that have not gotten done by then, we will address them. I will say this. Some of you ain't going to like this. Our focus, what we think is important, what a lot of people think's important, and what we scream for to happen, like a list being released and, all these theories, we want to almost have a pat on the back that we were right about these theories and all. And folks, some of that is important in the maybe the somewhat smaller scope of things. I just want this country to get back on its feet financially, but I want this country to be a country of laws. Again, I want us to feel safe. I want us to respect our law enforcement. I want law enforcement not to feel like they can't arrest criminals anymore like they did under Biden. I want us to get this perversion out of our government, and I'm wanting this whole thing cleaned out. I want people that try to put transgender surgeries on minors to go to prison for life. I want there to be a declaration that if you put a man in a woman's sport, that you pay such a hefty fine that you won't be able to spell the word sport. I'm telling you, folks, this stuff has got to stop. It's got to stop. Those are the things I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about a couple in North Carolina tonight that had 2 illegal aliens break into their house, kidnap the wife and baby, and by the grace of God, that wife and baby survived, but they were going to hold that baby and wife for $1 million. The husband was injured, but thank God he wasn't killed. They could have killed the husband. That's happened in North Carolina, folks, the good old US of A. And then you've got the left out there screaming, why don't you bring this gangbanger back? Our focus needs to be on things that matter eternally. Jeemes alluded to it. These judges, this judicial system, if it continues to be as corrupt as it is, it's going to have consequences long beyond Trump. Because if they can do what they're doing to him, they will continue to rule with tyrannical rule. And Christians and conservatives, let me tell you something. Their anger and their focus is going to be on you and me when Trump leaves, if they continue to get away with it. Now, some of you ask, well, what can be done about it? Trump can't do it. It's got to be done by Congress. And I know when I hear the word why, don't they do something? I cannot answer that. That's a question you probably need to direct to them, because I don't know why they don't do it. I mean, I think Amy's statement is about truth, probably money. But to ask why it's futile. It's going to keep you up at night scratching your head. Why? You need to just remove that. You need to remove that word from your vocabulary, because that's a question we're not going to get an answer to. The what can be done about it what can be done about it is Congress. And to impeach these judges, and I hate to say it, folks, it's going to rest on that Supreme Court. And that, too, is just a flip of the coin tonight. We don't know what's coming. I will just echo what President Trump said. God knows where we're going. God knows where we're going. I thought that was a tremendous statement that he said today. And he knows exactly where we're going. And I do believe God knows what Trump is trying to do. And I think he's blessing him. There's the two monsters that did this. They were kidnapping a North Carolina woman, her 11-month-old baby, after demanding $1 million. Don't they just look like a wedding pair right there? That happened in Garner, North Carolina. And illegal aliens Paleo Duran, 25, and Miguel Angel Duran, 23. They were arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree kidnapping and second-degree kidnapping. These folks are lucky they're alive tonight. This is the video I want to show you tonight, and we'll take your questions here. This is Stephen Miller. I tell you, me and Stephen would get along so good if I could ever meet him. I would just like to have lunch with him, shake his hand. I'd like to get him on the McFiles and just let him go off for about an hour and tell us how he really feels. Roll the tape.
Healthcare should be simple, not a constant battle with.
We got to get through the ads first. Hang on just a second.
You have to jump through hoops.
Breitbart.
This is a person
there we go.
There was a clear and present danger to the safety of the American people, and it is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist, with no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered.
Big Pharma and the government worked hand in hand to shut down real treatments like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. You don't have to play by their rules, and that's why I trust all.
By the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration, Border Patrol.
One researcher spent 20 years investigating the lives of men who lived
I swear I hate when they do this.
Apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision?
One researcher spent 20 years investigating the lives of men who lived up to 120 years. She discovered that one food these men were eating was responsible for their astonishing life.
What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her, they sexually assaulted her, they tortured her, they stripped her, they murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all.
If you're over 40 and struggling to balance your blood sugar, this little-known compound activates what some experts...
It was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
That's why I love Stephen Miller. And sorry for the ads. I don't know why Breitbart does that. It would help if they paid their bill somewhere else. He just absolutely shredded them. This is Colin Rugg's X account. This story is on our Telegram room as well tonight. But that is Stephen Miller, and it's some good stuff right there. And folks, he said it. He said it. We've got no sympathy. Folks, I got no sympathy tonight. And I keep seeing the question about why. Folks, we can't answer why. The why is unanswerable. We can't answer it. I don't know why they're not doing their jobs, but the question to me is not why. The question to me is how a federal judge is how a federal judge can be so stupid. And that's not a why answer. Is how can they be so constitutionally stupid? And I don't think it's stupidity. I think it's bribery. I think these judges have been financed. Look, if you look at the headlines I see every day, there is no less than 7 to 9 to 10 headlines a day over the last just 2 weeks. Every time we turn around, whatever Trump does, there's an injunction against it. And this latest thing about that the ICE agents cannot even arrest the Trade de Arga gang members without a warrant, and this judge tonight that basically permanently banned Trump from persecuting or prosecuting and deporting the aliens under the Alien Enemies Act, again, that has to be appealed through the court system. But I think it's money and bribery. You just got to pray that God himself deals with the hearts of the Supreme Court and they get politics out of this. We don't have time to do it tonight. I'm hoping we may have to do it next week, but there's 2 cases that you need to keep an eye on at the Supreme Court. One is this religious charter school in Oklahoma. This could change the course of events for Christian schools. But in many ways, you need to be careful because it's what Alice Linehan said, and we had somebody mentioned this the other night, but the government wants to get their fingers in homeschools, and this ruling in Oklahoma that the Supreme Court's listening to could change the course of the way we do homeschooling for a long time to come. And the other thing is these Maryland books, these LGBTQ, and I hate to use this word, I'm using the word of the courts, not mine, the LGBTQ queer books that are basically being fought tooth and toenail by Maryland parents to keep them out of the classrooms of kindergartners because Maryland school officials believe it's vogue to teach your kindergartners about LGBTQ queer. And the Supreme Court is leaning toward making sure that that don't happen. And I'm praying that they will hold fast and rule righteously as it relates to that and keep faith protected. Brett Kavanaugh, he got fired up today, and I like Brett Kavanaugh. He's not perfect. But he basically told the people that were trying to stop the religious charter in Oklahoma, he said, you don't have a right. You don't have the right to cherry pick and persecute Christian faith. He said, I hate to tell you, Christians are just as able and free to acknowledge their God as you are. And that's what, we sort of talked about on the radio show one day this week. Look, folks, freedom of religion means that all religions can express faith. But let me tell you this, that means Christians can express faith too. That's the problem right now. It's not the fact that you don't see Christians out there telling people that we need to do away with faith and this and that. Other folks, it's a free country. From a spiritual standpoint, there's only one way to God. That's what we believe. We believe in Jesus Christ tonight. We believe in the true faith. We believe in the true God. But we live in a nation that it is a nation of many gods. Whether that's right or wrong, that's a spirit. You got 2 discussions. You got a spiritual part of that. You've got the freedom part of that. Look, people are free to worship. But let me tell you this. What's happening is that the Christian faith has slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly been persecuted and pushed aside and been told that if we worship our God and we stand up for what we believe, then we become the bigots and we become the fascists and we become the Nazis. That's going to stop too. Because this land was built on Christian faith. Now, a couple of quick videos for you, and then I'm going to let you talk to me tonight. We're going to get out of here on this Thursday night. By the way, this is just going to give you the warm fuzzies. This is one of these illegals that one of the courts said you had to release. Well, he gets out here yesterday from Columbia. He's one of these protesters on the Columbia University. He basically told America to blank off, and he told President Trump, he sent a message to Trump. Roll the tape.
He was trying to get citizenship. He was almost there, and that's when he was arrested. So the Trump administration says they're going to fight to make sure he is not getting citizenship. And keep in mind, he co-founded the Palestinian Student Union after October 7th with Mahmoud Khalil, the other guy who has been detained. They did this together. They caused chaos. They caused riots on Columbia's university. We saw all the footage. Kids couldn't go to class. They disrupted everything. You can't come to our country and disrupt everything. If you're going to come to our country, you need to love our country and not try to do this. This is what it looked like. These two guys organized all of this.
It's incredible.
Go to another country if you want to do that. It's not welcome here in America.
Hopefully the next time we hear from him, he'll be making that speech in the West Bank or in Gaza. Here's what the DHS says when you advocate for violence, glorify and support terrorists that relish the killing of Americans and harass Jews, that privilege should be revoked. And you should not be in this country. We have the law, facts, and common sense on our side. No judge, not this one or another, is going to stop the Trump administration from restoring the rule of law to our immigration system.
Come on.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. First time I get to play that tonight. He basically, you see that little sign right there? That was his blank you to America. He basically got in front of that mic. You ought to see the crowd. The whole video, you got to see this crowd. They were just screaming. And those fires that you saw that were being set on Columbia's campus, he was part of it with Khalil, the same jackanapes that's in prison that the Democrats went to see and coddled him the other day. But he told Trump to his face, he said, I'm not afraid of you. You better be afraid, sir. I'm not telling you to be afraid of Trump. You better be afraid of somebody else bigger than Trump. And let me tell you this. We American citizens, we don't care where you practice your faith. We don't care what you do. But you're not going to come to our country and burn our campuses down. And you're not going to harass Jews in America. You're here on our dime. You're here on our invitation. You're here on our invite. And you need to be deported immediately. You may think you've won a little victory, but your carcass is going to be in the Gaza and the West Bank. And I want you to go over there and give that speech over there because we've got no sympathy. As Stephen Miller says tonight, folks, I think Stephen Miller said it. We have no sympathy. None. For the terrorists. Here he is about mutilation of minors. Roll the tape.
This administration ended the Biden administration's policy and the Democrat Party's policy of allowing men into women's sports, men into women's spaces. We are using every single legal and financial tool we have at President Trump's direction to make it clear that schools and universities are and will lose federal funds, as you've seen in Maine, if you allow men to invade women's sports and women's spaces. And this applies to our whole K-12 system. The Department of Justice is also coordinating with state and local law enforcement to fight child abuse in our school systems. It is child abuse to change a child's gender, particularly if you do not inform the parents. In other words, if a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old goes to school, or a 7-year-old goes to school, and the teacher tries to turn the boy into a girl or the girl into a boy, that is child abuse. And this administration is treating that as child abuse. And it is a gross violation of parental rights. This also includes the administration's message to our hospital systems that they cannot and will not be allowed to use taxpayer dollars to perform chemical castration and sexual mutilations of children. Castration surgeries, castration drugs, sterilization treatments of children are barbaric. They violate all sound medical ethics. They are completely unwarranted. They harm children for life, irreversibly. It is child torture. It is child abuse. It is medical malpractice. And so the Department of Health and Human Services, under the leadership of Bobby Kennedy, as well as the Department of Justice and other departments of this government, are making clear to our medical providers and our hospital systems that you cannot use taxpayer dollars to perform these barbaric procedures
Stephen.
on America's children. And HHS has systematically updated eliminated all of the junk, fake science that was produced under the Biden administration promoting sex changes on children, promoting the idea of sterilizing children. That's been cleaned out, that's been removed, and new guidance is being issued to doctors and hospitals advising them that they cannot perform these horrifying procedures, these irreversible procedures on our nation's children.
Now, I'm just a South Georgia boy. That sounds not just like common sense. Folks, we are slowly becoming a barbaric society as it relates to our children. What Stephen Miller he was talking to the same press corps this morning, to their face. Because you know why he had to do this? Because the media claims that people that are speaking like Stephen Miller, that we are fascists and that they have a right to do these things to our kids without parents' knowledge and without parents' consent. We got a term for that down south. It's called bullshit. It's something that smells bad on a South Georgia day on the sidewalk. But Stephen Miller capsuled exactly what's been going on for the last 4 years in this country. As we are slowly being turned into a barbaric society, folks. They always go after the kids. That's going to stop. It's going to stop, or somebody's going to pay a price.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Music to my ears. It's elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. But the media pushes this. The left pushes this. Jamie Rankin pushes this. Van Hollen pushes this. AOC pushes this. Kamala Harris pushed it. This woke nonsense, this woke stuff that our government has been pushing for the last 4 years has been so ungodly and so unrighteous. But this is the thing, as I get ready to take your questions. President Trump's trying to stop it. President Trump has something called moral clarity to see this is wrong. And he's trying to stop it. But you know where his criticism's coming from? It ain't coming from the left. No, it's coming from brainless Christians. It's coming from brainless people that, because Trump can't bring the price of an egg down to 20 cents, then he's not doing his job. And because Trump can't wave his magic wand and stop everything that's been wrong in this country for not just 4 years, but for 50 years, then we just throw our towel up and say, well, he ain't doing a good job and we need to just stop supporting him. Well, you do that, okay? I'm going to tell you this tonight, folks. We're headed back. This is going to be our future. If we don't get our head on straight and get our hearts right and understand and see God's purposes. I love what he said today. God knows where we're going as a country. But the thing about it, I believe what that means is two things. We can go the right way if we want to go. God's given us a chance to go the right way tonight. But there's another path we can take. This whole thing can go bad. This whole thing can go south, and God knows that too. That's not on God. That's on us. That's on us. And it makes it very hard for a country to go the right way when its church can't even figure out what the right way is. And calls evil good and good evil. The church is doing that tonight. Because the church is backslidden. And it's got a spiritual fog on it. And I'm not preaching politics. I love what Kevin O'Leary said. I said it on the radio show yesterday. We don't shrill for a candidate, folks. This has nothing to do with Trump. It wouldn't matter who was in office. If anybody else was pushing what Stephen Miller just said, I'd be saying amen, shouting glory. I'd be right there behind him doing everything I can for that candidate tonight. I shrill for righteousness, and I shrill for policy that makes sense to protect our kids and to keep this crap off of our youngins. because there are forces in this land that will be more than happy, and they're still doing it in spite of every executive order Trump has issued. You got states still doing this stuff. You've got entire states allowing transgenders into women's sports, allowing this stuff to continue to happen, allowing this stuff to take place. Okay. All right. I would say more, but we're out of time. Chow Muffin, that's our whole show tonight. You said, what do we think of Mike Waltz out as the National Security Advisor and being the new UN Ambassador? You missed it. We had James Akers on. I don't have time to go back in all of it. It was not unexpected, but it's, I think Trump, it's his cabinet, and I think it's going to be for the betterment. I mean, he's not like he fired him. He's putting him as ambassador to the UN, so it wasn't one of those hard breaks. It was just basically a realignment. Marco Rubio is going to be the head of the NSA for now. He'll probably have a replacement, and then Wong, James was telling us tonight that he's more disappointed that Alex Wong got let go too. He was Waltz's chief deputy advisor, and there's no word on where he's at, where he's going to wind up. But Waltz is going to wind up at the UN. Brad Johnson believes he was in over his head, and and when Brad was saying this, I was somewhat agreeing, because Brad knows the apparatus better than I do, but Brad proved to be right, because there was a lot of rumors circulating around D.C. that the NSA was not being run too effectively and efficient, and Trump, you can't be inefficient. And you can't be that way around Trump, because Trump runs a tight ship. You know something? I'm okay with him running a tight ship. I heard this illustration one time. If an engineer is screaming at the builders of a bridge, and he sees something shabbily being done as a bridge is being built across an ocean of water, the reason that engineer expects perfection is this: because if that bridge is built shabbily and you drive your car over it, that bridge and that car is going to wind up in that ocean, and you're probably going to get killed. That's why engineers scream and they cuss sometimes, and they scream and they get screaming and they ugly at builders, because they want to make sure that what they're building is right and secure. And I think that there's nothing wrong with Trump demanding a high standard out of the government. It's about time somebody has, because we've been building a bridge and America's been crashing into this abyss of hell for the last 25 years. And thank God somebody is taking some responsibility and accountability and saying, if you don't do your job, we're going to put somebody in there that can. And as I would say, I just love that. I just love that.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary. They've already named him. That is Marco Rubio. That's Marco Rubio. Who do I think should become the next security advisor? I've got no bone in this fight. I don't know. I do not believe Michael Flynn needs to be. And I don't believe Steve Bannon needs to be. I saw Dennis's comment about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is just like Mike Flynn. They would both be a lightning rod, and I don't see either one of those people. I may be wrong, but I can tell you who I don't want in there and who I don't think should be in there. I tell you, if my buddy Brad Johnson would take the job, if Trump's listening tonight, I don't know if he listens to our show, he probably don't, but I think Brad'd be a pretty good one myself. And Brad has expressed to me that with the way the country's going right now, he'd be open to coming back, to coming off the bench, unretiring and taking it. But you need somebody in there that's got smarts about the world, but I think Trump is looking for loyalty, and I understand that. I understand that more than you may know. Loyalty is good. Blind loyalty is bad, but loyalty and not being somebody that leaks and somebody that betrays confidences and somebody that has the character to keep things within the scope of the White House, that's the kind of person he needs. And he'll find it. I wouldn't care if Marco Rubio could handle both jobs. It'd be okay with me if he handled both jobs, but that would be me. Carol says it's heartbreaking that these issues even have to be addressed. That is so true, Carol. You know, that's that's you said a mouthful there, buddy. Good to see you tonight. Yeah, I mean, you know, what Stephen Miller was saying, folks, is just common sense. It's just common sense. How have we reached a place in this society that we don't understand that gender mutilation is child abuse? How have we reached a place in society that we can't believe and know that it's wrong for a man to go into a woman's bathroom? Why is it that we have to be told that pedophilia is wrong? You know, I've said this many times, and since this is our one and only show tonight, I'll be here for a little bit, so you got a question, put it in. But you know, when Trump first got elected, I kept hearing this, that Trump's here to expose the evil. Trump's here to expose things, and there's going to be a great exposure, and there's going to be a great thing of justice coming. And we had such a good time in South Dakota, and I think that one thing Amy Miller told me in our discussions up there this weekend at the conference, and you know, her take on this, and I've really chewed on it since I've gotten back. Folks, there's a possibility that we're not going to see justice. You know, the exposure only is good if something's done about what's being exposed. But this is the thing that's always eaten at me about that statement. And I see it even now sometimes from people that this needs to be exposed. This needed to be exposed. Why did it need to be exposed? Why didn't we know about it to begin with? What needed to be exposed to tell us that there were just two genders, folks? We got a wonderful book here. We got a wonderful book here called the Bible. Male and female created he them. That's one of the very first passages of Genesis. It's amazing how that if you just simply read God's book, you can know that. You don't need somebody in the government telling you that. You know what's sad about it is that you got churches. I watched a video tonight, and this black pastor, and I don't know what's happened to the black community, folks. I don't know what's happened to these black pastors. They have just lost their way. They have absolutely lost their soul. This social justice gospel, this black liberation theology. He was calling out white pastors that supported Trump, and he was claiming that, you know, that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob wasn't a Republican or Democrat, and I'll agree with that. But I will tell you this: God's not a baby killer, sir. And God's not somebody that pushes mutilation surgery like your people that you're supporting, that you said that you supported in November, believe she wanted to do that. You're a hireling. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You need to repent yourself. You're bringing damnation on your own soul. You're bringing damnation to your sheep. You're bringing damnation for preaching that mess to your congregation. No, God's not a Republican or Democrat, but I can tell you God's not a baby killer. And God's not a perverse God. He's a righteous and a thrice holy God, and He's not pleased with the perversion of this country. He's not pleased with homosexuals and queers running around the streets of America telling America that this is the way to go and that we need to take our kids, and if our kids don't want to be a male, then we can cut their male organs off and make them women, and that's okay in the sight of society. I don't care what's okay in the sight of society, and sir, I don't care if it's right in the sight of your church. Neighbor, it's ungodliness, it's unrighteousness, and it is wickedness. And it is evil. It's evil. But why do we have to have a politician tell us that is evil? Should we not know that? Should we not already know that? For God's sake, folks, I was telling, who was I talking to today on the phone? I was talking to somebody from the show, and we were talking about this very thing. And I told him, I said, did they not teach us in kindergarten about the birds and the bees? Did we not get taught at our homes about, the male has an organ, the female has an organ, and that's what life is, male and female? This book tells you right here, folks, ain't for two genders. But anyway, Carol, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that frustrates me as well. It's a shame. It's a plain shame that churches have to be explained this to and be told this. Pastors don't understand this. And they support candidates that support the mutilation and the torture and the sexual abuse and the mutilation and the damnable practice of gender mutilation on children. And if you vote for a candidate and you vote for a party that agrees with it, you're doing it. You're just as culpable and just as guilty as that party, if not worse. I don't care what kind of church you go to. I don't care what kind of church you go to. Anyway. Any other questions? Any other questions? Good question, Carol. Good job. Excellent point. Excellent point. Corey says we need to pray for the midterms now. We can't have Democrats take the majority. They have totally lost their minds. I would, Corey, I say that they've lost them. I don't think they've ever had their minds. You got to have your mind to lose it. I'm just saying. This, I think that this is another thing that's happened with a Trump second term. Look, a lot of these things these Democrats are doing, we always knew this was their motive. We always knew this was behind their agenda. We always knew this is how they felt. This is how they really deeply felt. And it's just coming to the forefront. It's amazing how certain things trigger things in people, and it just makes them reveal their character and their true colors. Boy, I can tell you a few stories on that. I'm telling you, it's amazing how people show their colors eventually. And I don't care how much they're being nice to you to your face and claiming they've got your best interest at heart. I can tell you when push comes to shove, you find out who's got your best interest and who don't in a real quick manner. Speaking of that, I got to play this one quick video of Chuck Schumer today. He got his butt handed to him because he was trying to make fun of President Trump's poll numbers. By the way, folks, let me remind you, don't worry about them poll numbers. I don't care if it's showing that 70% of the country don't like what Trump's doing. Trump don't care, as he shouldn't care. We don't run the country by polls. We don't run the country because it's popular. We don't do what's right for the country because the left don't like it, or the church don't like it, or somebody else don't like it. We run the country for we the people. We run the country for we the people. And I've not seen anything that Trump's done that's been wrong and harmful to the people. I just played you the video of Stephen Miller. He's doing everything to protect the people and to protect our kids and to protect our grandkids. I think we can at least say amen to that. But Chucky Boy, Schmucky Boy, wanted to make fun of his poll numbers today. You got to love the boomerang of life. Roll the tape.
Americans are noticing. The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling.
That's not true, but let him rant.
80 years ago, the lowest. Even worse, 72% of Americans think it's likely that Trump's handling of the economy will walk us directly into a recession. In people who hate what Trump is proposing. Yes.
There's a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader, 17%. Are you concerned that you may be a liability for your party?
Polls come and go. Our party is united. We're on our front foot.
Did you see that? I'm not going to let him finish his statement. He's trashing Trump at his poll numbers. The reporter, I don't know who it was, said, Chuck, your approval rating is 17%. And they believe that you are a liability. And then he says, polls don't matter. But when it comes to Trump, we're supposed to believe that Trump's evil because the polls say he's evil. That's the hypocrisy and the insanity, Corey, to your point, of the Democrat Party. I say this as we close tonight. The Republicans may have their problems. Republicans are not perfect, by no means. But I can tell you, these Dems are just bat blank crazy. They are bat blank demonically crazy. I'll take the imperfections of the Republicans. I'll take the imperfections of Trump. I'll take the imperfections that his cabinet members, they're going to make mistakes. but you keep criticizing and you keep belly aching and murmuring out there, God's going to say, you know, I'm tired of trying to save you. I'm tired of trying to put people for you, bring you people that's trying to save your country. You keep murmuring, I'll just give you what you want. And I tend to believe, folks, that's what happened in 2020. There was so much murmuring against Trump. There was so much murmuring and belly aching among Christians. It's time we better come to grips with this, folks. We don't need to be belly aching. We need to be praying on this National Day of Prayer. We need to understand that we got a chance. You know, since God knows where we're going, we got a chance to go the right way tonight. But we also got the choice to go the wrong way if we want to. And that's what I'm going to leave you on tonight. I'm going to leave that on you. Amy says the only thing worse than the current corrupt politicians are the people that still believe in them. And Amy, that is a mouthful. It's good to see you, friend. It is good to see you, friend. All righty, folks, we are out of time tonight. It wouldn't be a Thursday night, and I didn't even bring the cowboy hat out, but I got to play it one time. Just one time. Just one time.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Somebody, I think it was Darlene, she says, Chris, come on up here and run for president. I'll fly you up here and you can be our prime minister. See, Darlene, the thing is, that would be my first press conference. And after I blistered the press like Stephen Miller did, I would play this
Do you
right
understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I think I'm going to email Stephen Miller and send this to him and say, hey, man, I'm for you, man. I just appreciate what you're doing. You need this. I'll be glad to make you one.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I'll be glad to make you one, man. I'm just saying.
My dear Watson.
I'm just saying. All right. Now, I've lost my opening for tonight, so I'm going to play a song going out. But listen, we're grateful that you've been here. Now, tomorrow, we'll be here in the morning. We'll be here all on the radio tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow night's up in the air. A certain Mrs. McDonald has got a birthday coming up next week, and we're not sure what we're going to be doing tomorrow night, but I will try to be on. I will tell you, McJustice is coming back, and I've been thinking about doing a McJustice show tomorrow night. And then if we don't do it tomorrow night, we definitely, a week from tomorrow night, we will have our first McJustice show in many years. And the Lord's actually spoke to me about this, and I know the format of what we're going to do. We're actually going to catalog the lawlessness of our country. And it's going to be formatted. You're going to see how crazy this country's become and the lawlessness that is about to take us under if we don't get it fixed. And we'll deal with some cases, and we'll look at some of the legal stuff going on with these judges. It'll strictly be an hour and a half show for me, with me doing this. But I miss McJustice. That was a great show, and the Lord gave me a format. It was really weird. Had not really thought about it, and He just dealt with my heart this week, and He said, "This is how I want you to do it," and I'm going to do it. So, but just give you a heads up. Some of these videos are pretty tough. But it'll just show you where we're at as a country legally, and we're not in a good place right now, folks, with lawlessness. But anyway, all righty. God bless you. God bless your families. Did you enjoy a Thursday night McFiles with James Akers and the McDonald man? I had a good time here tonight, and we got a lot more to talk about. Join me tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock at the KStarTalkRadio.com website. And we'll see you in the morning for your Bible students, and then we'll let you know about tomorrow night. If we are on it, to be around 8 o'clock. We may even come earlier. I don't know. But we love you guys. We thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we're blessed to have you as an audience. We're blessed to be here in your homes every night. We hope you've been enjoying this run with us. I tell you, I've enjoyed what I do. I don't even feel like it's work. It's just a labor of love every day. I sure am glad you're a part of this journey with me. I'm going to be here with you as long as you let me be. May the Lord bless you out there tonight. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Pray for our country. Pray for President Trump, because God knows where we are going, neighbor. God knows where we are going. The choice is ours. That's all I got to say as we go out of here tonight. Be blessed out there. God bless. And we will see you back here tomorrow. It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me. Something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. Not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard.